Hello and welcome to the CRM Zen Show, where we talk about all things Zoho. This is episode 135, Page Sense Palooza, recorded on Friday, February 26, 2021. From Sonata Consulting, I'm Brett Martin.
And I'm Tyler Colt, and let's get right on into the show.
All right, we'll start with our announcements. If you don't know, we are going to be doing our Zoho Sign overview and best practices are on March 16th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. Head on over to CRM Zen. And when you head over to CRM Zen, if you go ahead and you click on events, you will see the entire events calendar and you can find it there. Got some interesting stuff. Got a lot of meetups coming up. Big in next week is going to have managing your customer pipelines. Good stuff. So we got a couple good ones, and there's just a whole bunch of different things coming up in the future here. We're starting to see more and more. So if you head to events, you can register for our webinars and find all the other Zoho events that we can conceivably find when we're out and about and looking for them. So be sure to check that out. Right into the news. Page Sense Palooza is the title of the show. And man, so on Thursday, the 25th, they dropped over the course of 5 hours, basically 5 different announcements around PageSense. And if you don't know what PageSense is, historically, it would have nothing to do with actually interfacing with a client. What it does is it gathers all of the information about the clicks, how far a person scrolls down your page. It gives you heat maps if people abandon a form that you have filled out, how many fields they filled out before they abandon it. It lets you do A/B testing on various pages. So if you're, hey, which page is going to get more, you can put an A/B in there, and then it'll tell you which one got the greatest engagement, which one got, was successful actually in getting people to fill out a form. So they've changed it, Tyler. They're basically making it client facing. So we'll stop with the first one, which is they're now going to do pop-ups and banners inside of PageSense, which is just super cool. I think there's, I'm trying to remember the name of Opt-in Monster. Is that the one?
I think you used to use that one. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like $500 a year for Opt-in Monster. And basically that lets you do little pop-ups and, now it's included, and PageSense is pretty much it's in the Zoho One bundle. It's a great application. So you now can have pop-ups and modal pop-ups, and slide-ins, everything.
And this is an interesting update because a lot of these types of forms, at least like the pop-up forms, are also available in something like campaigns. So I'd be interested to see if there's kind of a tie together, right, where we can route that through over to campaigns or over to the CRM, right, to make sure that they get where they need to go once they fill out these forms.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because historically you haven't needed to integrate PageSense with anything, right?
So, yeah, because it's not gathering you any identifiable data. It's just the anonymous traffic.
Yeah, so this will be interesting. You're definitely going to have to integrate it with at least campaigns and at least CRM, right?
Yep.
Or CRM at the bare minimum. So maybe it's already done, but good stuff. And then the next big update was you can now collect visitor feedback with PageSense polls. So you can now create a quick poll inside of PageSense that, again, is another pop-up that is going to pop up, and you can take quick polls on visitor information.
Yeah, this is pretty slick. I mean, I could imagine, like having this on like an FAQ page or any type of like knowledge-based type of page. You could drop in a quick poll for like, is there anything that we're missing? Is there anything that we should add to this page? Right? I mean, tons of different uses for polling just to grab instant feedback from anyone who is on the site.
Yeah. And then continuing the customer engagement, you can now re-engage. Now, this is where it's using its ability to know who's come in, what their IP addresses are, how long they've been there. So, you can now push information out to visitors to kind of re-engage them. So you can, it's be consent, real leads. It's, I don't know, is this based upon on what their, on their engagement level, or is this, here we go on the triggers down here.
Yeah, it's got to be on some type of opt-in.
Yeah.
Right, where they'd provide you an avenue to send this push notification.
Yeah. Crazy. So basically another type of pop-up based in on a completely different set of triggers. So, man, this is going to be a lot to take in and look at. And then you can deliver contextual online experience with PageSense personalization. This is kind of a takeoff on the AB in a way, except it's going to personalize it directly for the person who is there.
Yeah, so this is kind of where, with a lot of these things, it's, you're working off the best data that you have, but an example of how you could be doing this is by selecting different types of visitors. So maybe you want to present a different homepage to someone who came from organic versus paid, right? So you might be splitting that based on a source. If you are gathering any like geographical information, which you probably could get from their IP address and things like that, you group them this way. Up on the page here, if you're watching our video, they kind of have a screenshot of some of the different audiences that you may be able to grab. I think it's under step 2 here.
Mm-hmm. Direct visitors, paid campaigns, organic search, social, referral.
New or returning visitors. Yeah. A lot of those are kind of nice just to customize maybe the type of messaging, the type of banner image that's going to come across based on, I think it'd be pretty slick, right? You have a visitor who's come back to the site more than 3 or 4 times and you can have a welcome back banner, right? Rather than just a standard image. It's pretty slick.
Yeah. That's crazy. Jessica's asking whether or not this will integrate with the Zoho Desk knowledge base. I wouldn't think so. Because the way you trigger everything inside PageSense, you've got a little bit of code that you put on your website. And if you could get the code somehow into your knowledge base, I don't know, unless in Desk knowledge base, can you insert any sort of...
You can add some HTML and CSS to it, but I don't know specifically if you'd be able to drop the whole PageSense code into the footer, right? Because that's really where you want to put that.
Yeah, I will tell you, we stack this code. So we stack the Sales IQ code, the chat code, with the PageSense code. And we just put it in the same little widget inside of in the website so that it's on every single page and it's looking at everything. Take a look at that and see. So anyway, hey, Wayne Tabin, take a look at these things. Let's get some implementations going here. I'd love to play with this on our own site. I think that'll be pretty good. Did we cover this last one? Oh no, there's more. You can also collect, report, and analyze your website data with web analytics. So look at this. They are now adding a whole bunch of different reporting options inside PageSense and data visualizations. Could you pull the PageSense data into analytics? Have we ever done that?
You can pull it into analytics, but
okay.
Always nice to have it within the product, just in case someone does have this as a standalone application or doesn't have analytics on their subscription.
Yeah. Well, they could have leaked these out over the next couple of months, huh? But there they go, all at once. Anyway, some great stuff from the PageSense team. Very, very, very nice. All right. And then moving on to other than PageSense news, we have got early access to new Biggin updates. And they also added 4 new updates for early access. So you've got a new pipeline view that's coming and customizing module names, rearranging fields. There's just a whole bunch of, this is an application that, man, oftentimes Zoho releases an application and just kind of sits stagnant after its initial release. That's not been the case with Biggin at all.
Yeah, they've just been furiously working on this application basically week over week. I mean, that was kind of the running joke almost of 2020 is, more weeks where there was Biggin news than weeks where there wasn't. So here they're kind of just building out even more customization on top of your Kanban view. So things like resizing columns, expanding and contracting columns, rearranging stages, all of this stuff, just being able to do it all from the Kanban view, which is really how most people are going to be using Biggin.
Yeah, I want all of this inside of Zoho CRM as soon as possible.
Yes,
you can add new stages directly in the Kanban view. I mean, this is just beautiful. This is just really, really good stuff. And then you've got custom module names and rearranging fields, something you actually weren't able to do before. I mean, they're taking things here that we can do that we've talked about doing in CRM for the longest time, and you just haven't been able to do them. So super nice stuff.
And then they're rolling out the new search as well. So if you are watching us on YouTube, they're kind of coming in and it's almost similar. I know they redid it in Recruit as well. Hopefully to CRM sooner rather than later on some of these searches. But if you are watching us here, it's kind of this expanded search bar. And it's going to give you a little bit more that you can do with it, right? So you're actually able to work from that record and even update fields via the search. So if you are playing with Recruit, they actually put out something similar to this not too long ago. This I would love to have that in the CRM as well. So Zoho, if you're listening, please copy paste that over to Zoho CRM.
Yeah, the CRM search, the search bar is relatively useless. If you type in Zanata, it needs to start with accounts. It doesn't start with accounts. It starts with every task, and there can be thousands, right? And then you kind of scroll down, and then it has it's a mess. It's hundreds and hundreds of items in it. Even if you type in a person's name, it will not give you that contact or that lead. It's going to give you every other thing associated with them, with all the stuff down at the bottom. So some changes there. I couldn't agree more. Let's get that done. I think that'll be a good thing. And then Zoho Desk, Zoho Projects has added a week and day view inside their calendar. I think this is going to be nice for us.
Yeah, so previously it just only really looked at a month. So definitely a nice one to have, just being able to flip it to weekly and daily views to see, basically any of your tasks or events at a more granular level. Oftentimes, if you have a lot of projects running at once and you're using that monthly view, it's just so many things, right, that are kind of all stacked on top of each other within a pretty small little row of the given week, right? So this one's definitely nice to have to kind of split those things out. And one of the things that I'll highlight that I really like that you can kind of see if you're looking at the image here is that they've broken out the multi-day actions into a nice little thin section up at the top to keep extra space for the things that are actually at a certain date and time on a particular day. So that, if you have a milestone that's going to stretch through a couple weeks, it's not kind of blowing out the calendar every day. It's just showing that as a little thin bar up at the top on these week and day views. That's always been a little bit of a challenge with the Zoho Projects calendar, is because you can't set a default filter on it. Those milestones are always going to show up. And if you look at if you are seeing us on YouTube, you'll see that monthly calendar is just kind of all taken up by those long, thin ones that are kind of representing milestones that are over the course of a couple different weeks. So definitely a nice little improvement there.
This is absolutely the first Zoho calendar I've ever seen that looks like, wow, like a calendar should look, like a modern calendar looks like. And we've talked about it for a long time. Zoho calendar is in the CRM is not great. The standalone Zoho calendar is not great. The calendar inside Zoho Mail is not great. They should all those people need to walk across the hallway over to the projects team and say, hey, let's grab this code, because this is a nice job. Mm-hmm. Super nice job. Excellent. All righty, and moving on with the news. Zoho Desk put out their community digest and basically just kind of highlighted, I think we have covered most of the things in here. But, if you're not aware with these little community digests, they're kind of nice. Head over to the Zoho community and you have all of the different communities there. So if you go into Desk, it's only about Desk. If you can kind of look at everything. I mean, this is really where I'd say we get probably 80% of our news. Would you say?
Yeah, just about.
Yeah, if you go to the announcements section inside Zoho Desk, then it's kind of every single thing that's happening. You got to parse through it, because if you'll notice, if it's got 30 replies, then even though this is up at the top, it was 15 minutes ago, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a relatively new post. It could be an extremely old post, but so you kind of got to go through and look and look at the overall engagement. But anything and everything that's kind of happening in Zoho, it usually drops over in the community first. So we're taking a look at. Hey, and then Zoho Desk has a multi-layout in beta. This is just looks kind of interesting. I mean, the ability to actually have different layouts. This is a first, huh?
Yeah, I think so. It's kind of interesting. So, basically the idea here is that you may have different teams within a department, and a lot of the customization within Desk is done at a department level, right? So you'll kind of have your ticket layout for a specific department. But if you have teams within those departments who work on things differently, right, that you might actually need further customization within a specific department. And now they're kind of building out the functionality for us to do that.
Yeah, it's been in the CRM for a while. This would be nice. Super nice to have. All right. And that brings us to our implementation of the week. What do you have?
Yes, this is one that Josh kind of found within the Zoho WorkDrive plugin for Zoho CRM. So there's kind of two ways to attach a file in WorkDrive to a CRM record. You can either use the standard attachments section and add, your WorkDrive link, or you can install the WorkDrive plugin. And with that, you get a nice little widget on each page, which kind of embeds WorkDrive, where you're actually able to kind of work within the record you're looking at and go folder by folder without having to open things up into a new tab. One of the reasons we oftentimes find ourselves using the attachments option is that we're able to automatically create folders and add them there, so that you're not having to manually create a new folder for all your new accounts if that's the business use case. But with this WorkDrive now, they've actually added a bunch of default workflows, which you can turn off and on. And a lot of those workflows involve basically automatically creating those folders, when you create a new lead or when you create a new account, and associating them back to that parent. Now, the big advantage of this, again, is just that you're able to do this within that WorkDrive plugin so that you're getting the full benefits of the UI and the widget that it embeds, but you're still able to actually automatically create all the different folders. And then the last little thing on top of that is that once that folder is created over in WorkDrive, it actually will have like the CRM account ID behind the scenes. So then if we want to trigger future automations, the folder knows which account it's for. So if we want to say, hey, when that folder is created, run a function over in WorkDrive that goes and creates these other child folders and associates them all back, you're able to do all of that and still actually use the WorkDrive widget in the records.
It's super nice. I mean, the things you can do there too, if you're creating a document, from within, you can actually then associate it and automatically have that document dropped in there, PDFs, that's just WorkDrive is great.
Yeah, we've really been loving it. I feel like we've done a couple implementations over the past month or two on WorkDrive just because, all credit to Josh and Greg. They've really just been diving into the API and find that there's really not much that we can't automate between those two applications. And with so much in the CRM, you're going to deal with a lot of attachments, whether it's a proposal, whether it's a blueprint, whether it's images of a location, and being able to store them in WorkDrive where you have, terabytes of space in an easy and seamless way is just a huge value, because you really don't want to be parking those attachments in the CRM because your cost per storage is not great when you're doing that versus in WorkDrive. I mean, you're going to be hard pressed to bump into a limit there.
Yeah. And we're going to be doing some interesting things with the kind of a new portal we're rolling out internally, which is where we run everything out of, that we're basically, by using WorkDrive for this, it's just seamless integration for clients to go in. And right now we use Google Drive, and that's kind of great. And they can go in and they can do that and they can see that. But this is going to be I think it's going to be a super nice integration for everybody. And it's using Zoho Creator, and it's using some really, really interesting stuff. So I'm looking forward.
And the more we play with it too, I mean, I think Zoho's done a really good job with the UI in WorkDrive. It's not as pretty. Google Drive is very bubbly and pretty and nice to look at, but just getting to the file that you need to find in WorkDrive is so much easier, I think. And we don't use OneDrive or some of those other options a lot, but at least compared to Google Drive, it's so much quicker to navigate around in there.
Yeah, completely. All right, let's talk about our read of the week. This is for you, Tyler. A CRM agency secret weapon, a data scientist. This is from CRM Magazine. It's by Rika Gibbons, who's the chief operating officer over at Rare Solutions. And basically, it's what we preach on a daily basis. Keep your data clean and get the most out of your data with a good BI tool. I'm saying Zoho Analytics. They don't mention that here. But Destination CRM, if you don't go over there, it's put out from CRM Magazine. Most of these articles will appear in CRM Magazine. Great magazine to subscribe to, by the way. I think it's free. You just have to be in the industry, and they'll shoot it over to you. But it's really just talking about Making sure your data is clean, making sure your data is consistent. They start off with the whole Mars lander from 1999, where JPL, coded it in the metric system, and Lockheed Martin built it out in the imperial system. And as it was about to land, you basically had numbers clashing with each other, the whole thing. And I think it crashed into the pole, didn't it? But this is more around, just keeping your data clean, how to work with your data, what you can do with it, why you want to have it clean. And then kind of the stuff you can run out of it. I mean, and I think we see this on a weekly basis, where you go in and data's a mess, right? Just the duplicate records, everything all over the place, uppercase, lowercase, things not properly filled in, and you can't do anything with it. Especially, I think you see this a lot when you're trying to do analytics. You've got to get the data clean before you can do anything proper.
Yeah, it's one of those kind of big challenges, because when you're doing data workups, you'll oftentimes be pulling together multiple different sources, right? So maybe you've got a bunch of leads in the CRM, and you've got this other system where you're doing billing, and or maybe you've got deals in the CRM, and you want to marry that data together. Well, if you've got a bunch of duplicate contacts, and the only data that I have in both places is an email, right? Then when I try to join all that data together, you're just going to have inconsistencies where people are showing up multiple times, and it's messing things up. And I mean, really, like, a simple way to think about it is, if you have a bunch of accounts, companies, and you want to figure out what are my lifetime sales to these accounts, and what are my top 10. Well, if you have different versions of the same account in your system and different sales logged under those accounts, they might not show up in your top 10, even though they are one, because their sales are split 3 ways into 3 different account names. So even at just simple levels like that, it really is, it does all start with that data cleanliness. And then I think the process around it too, like we talk about that with converting leads a lot, is that you want to have a very specific criteria for when you're going to convert a lead, so that when you run a report on what is your conversion percent, it's meaningful. Because if everyone's converting based on different criteria, then that number doesn't actually tell you anything, or doesn't tell you something as useful as if you knew exactly what went into each conversion. So it gets a lot into process and cleanliness. And then once you have those things buttoned up, then you can start to, learn from the data and use it to improve.
Yeah. Absolutely. Good stuff here, by the way. So, good article. Like I say, check out Destination CRM, and I think you'll actually like this article as well. That moves us over to what's new on Zanata. And man, we got a lot of cool stuff I want to talk about. I'm excited when we get down to this last one. 2 blogs. First one, the unhealthy matrimony spreadsheets. Anyway, we know, so many times we get clients, and they have been able to successfully run their business on spreadsheets for years and years and years. But there comes a point, they seem to hit a tipping point, if you will, where spreadsheets are just no longer going to get it done. And you've got to organize your data into some more of a relational type of database, such as a CRM. And so you basically can only go so far. And so I think that a good chunk of what we do is people have been on spreadsheets forever and ever and ever. And then it's us making sense of those spreadsheets and getting them into some sort of a really functional use, so they can get to that data. And this is a nice article. It goes into depth, everything you need to do to get your data out and in and across the board. Man, we're not writing 500-word blogs anymore, are we?
No, better and better every week.
Good stuff. So kind of ties directly into like keeping good data, like we talked about in the previous read of the week. So nice read there. And then we have how to set up the new motivator for Zoho CRM. This comes out of, we did our CRM webinar was it this month? This month. And one chunk of it was, you really did a deep dive into, how to set up motivator and inside of the new CRM. And so it was kind of one of those things that we were noticing. There was a lot of click-throughs to just go to that section. So we kind of broke it out as its own little standalone video. So if you want to watch Tyler tell you everything you need to know about setting up motivator in CRM, there it is. And then we found another resource guide from Zoho, which is the Guide to Millennial Recruiting, which is
Interesting.
the characteristics of a millennial. Yeah, this is hysterical. So I was at a conference about 3 years ago. It was for SolarWinds, and SolarWinds had a guest speaker came out, and this guy was out there and he goes, millennials. He goes, let me read to you. And he reads this article about how, they're lazy. You can't get them to do this. They're unmotivated. All they want is more money for less work. And then he goes, and how about this one? And he reads another article basically saying all the traits that are thrown out there about that. And he goes, would everybody agree? And everybody's like, yeah. And he goes, okay, the first one was written in 1945 about kids that were born at the end of World War I. And the second one was written in 1965 about, all the children born in the 1940s. So it's just hysterical. And the first one is basically attacking what went on to be the greatest generation, is what we call them, right? So, so it's all the same. So I don't know if I can put anything behind this other than millennials are people too. But here is the guide to recruiting millennials. So I think the more it changes, the more it stays the same. And then lastly, over on Zenato.com, we used to have a little thing up here that said resource guides or resources. We've changed this to free Zoho resources, and we've always had our Zoho apps. If you haven't gone into the Zoho apps before, basically this is where we rate the applications. Yes, this is a best in class or near best in class. You should definitely use it. Maybe it's not the best in class, but it usually gets it done for most people. And no, we just have some fundamental flaws. And if you click in any of these, it tells you why our feelings are and how they got those ratings. We now have solved two things. So with Zoho bundles, we have basically broken down all of the bundles. So if you say, hey, what's going on with this, you can go look at we've got all the pricing for the various bundles and all the applications that are associated with that bundle. CRM Plus, again, the bundle pricing, and then the applications that are associated, Creator Plus, Finance Plus, it goes down the line. So every bundle, and some of these bundles have disappeared. So over time, there used to be, there were more, and they've changed. So we have every bundle that we know of now completely broken down in here. And in addition to that, we're doing more. So if you actually are on the main page and you click into any of the applications, we've got the books, we've got our ratings, we've got everything that's going on here. This happened to win a ZenMe, our pros, our cons. But now we're also telling you what bundles they're in and what the pricing is if you buy it standalone. And if you say, wow, this is included in that bundle, you can click and it's going to take you directly to that bundle page soon. We made a change on that. So good stuff. And then also, if you don't know, this is where we keep, all of our articles, all of our guides that we found on Zoho Books, all the videos we've ever made on Zoho Books. So all those kind of things are all centrally located inside our resources library, if you will. So, but these bundles, man, what a process.
Well, some of them, it's hard to find exactly what's in it.
Oh,
so you go to those pages and you got to really dig around, and it'll show a little infographic, and maybe those are all the apps, but there's also another one kind of snuck in behind the scenes, and then things that we actually notice that aren't on the site. Like I noticed the other day that with CRM Plus, like we actually might want to update the Zoho bundle. You actually very quietly get Zoho Notebook with that. I don't know if it's on purpose. So Zoho, if you're listening, don't take it away from people, but it's actually in Zoho CRM Plus. You can access Notebook directly within there through the little box on the bottom right.
Yeah, and there's no documentation on that anywhere. Mm-hmm. So we cannot find that exists. So we probably should add it in. I'll tell you what we went through on Zoho 1. It was hysterical. So I've got 6 across by 7 down. So you see we've got 40 apps here. So we had 42. And so then we went to the Zoho guide on what was in there. And there are 4 apps that they had 44. But as I went through, there were 4 that we don't include. So things like, what's the mail one?
Oh, Toolbox.
No. The mail. No, sales,
Sales inbox.
Sales inbox. So sales inbox is basically, it comes with CRM Plus and it comes with Zoho One, and it's hasn't been updated in 5 years, and it has the potential to be great, but it's not really a standalone app. It just kind of comes with one of those two applications. You can't buy sales inbox on its own. Zoho Docs has been deprecated, so we took that out, and there were a couple other little ones in there that really. Bug Tracker is not a standalone app. It's just part of projects, right? You can't buy Bug Tracker by itself. So we eliminated the 4. So they were down to 40 and we have 42. So then we kind of had to go line up and figure what was quite the process to understand exactly. But these are the actual 40 applications that are inside of Zoho One. And we've got the pricing and everything you would kind of need to know there. But it's looking good. So I think we got all the bundles here in one place. So we hope everybody finds that useful, because it's pretty lot of time and effort has gone into building this out. But I think it'll be helpful for us too as well. Sometimes we get asked these questions like what's in what, and there's no good place to find it. I mean, when you go to a bundle page, like you said, you don't even know what apps are there.
Yeah, it'll talk about the types of things that it does. So when you go to the CRM Plus one, it'll talk about the way that you can have a CRM and you can market to people and you can do capture and all these things. But you have to kind of search around and actually see line by line what exactly is in that bundle.
Yeah, it's crazy. Hey, and that brings us to our application of the week, which I picked just because of the conversation that we had yesterday. Twilio, SMS, MMS, WhatsApp extension for Zoho CRM, from the team over at Deluge on a Luge.
Yeah, and this is one that we did talk about this a little while back. If you've been a longtime listener, you might remember this, but I circled it back around to it because we just implemented it again for a customer who needed some texting within the CRM, and it really just is so good. Basically, this integration just runs with Twilio on the back end, right? So you get a Twilio account, you get all your numbers set up over there. And then really the setup with the CRM, you're just dropping your keys in both places. And what it does is it pulls over all the numbers in your account, creates them in a module where you can permission them out. So certain users have certain numbers that only they can use. Gives you a super, super nice UI inside of your leads, contacts, and deals. So you can actually text directly from a deal, which is just great. So, when your reps are actually using this, they're not. A lot of the other SMS tools with Zoho, you're kind of entering like a custom module record, that looks like a deal record would, rather than using an interface like this. Comes out of the box with automated tasks when people respond to things. You've got templates for all the different modules that you can use. I could go on and on, but it really just is so buttoned up. And I will highlight kind of one thing about it is the pricing. If you're a team of people using it, you really can't beat the pricing. If you're on your own, there are going to be some other SMS applications that, you can get cheaper than this. I think this one's about $30 per month or $240 a year if you pay annually, but you can have as many users in that as you want. There's $35 a month. So if you've got one user, it's going to be pretty expensive. If you've got 10 users, it's the same price. You're just paying for the back end in Twilio. So if you're a sales team of any size who wants to use texting, you basically can't beat the pricing. It's going to support individual texts. It does mass texting. It does all your automated texts. It's great. And then the last thing about it that isn't directly from this plugin, but if you do want to use something like campaigns to send out like short code, campaigning messages, that also runs through Twilio. So you just have one backend and it's plugged into the CRM via this plugin. And it's plugged into campaigns just directly through Twilio where you can use those same numbers. It's one of those ones that we kind of implemented a couple times when it first came out and loved it then. And we haven't touched it in a little while and came back and it just reminded us how good this application really is. So we wanted to circle back on it.
Yeah, it is. It's fantastic. And next week, we're going to circle back again. We're actually going to have John Mark Bantock as a guest. I think he's going to sit in for the whole show. Awesome. And we're going to talk about all of the updates that he's made to his portal. I agree with you. It's just worth coming back to this one. I don't know. We talked about it. Probably wasn't that long ago, 30, 40 shows ago.
Something like that.
Yeah, but man, so good.
Yeah.
It's so good. Your statement was, look, there's nothing out there that's even close to it right now. And I think that's the case. You said really easy to provision the numbers and choose the numbers and all that.
Yeah, I mean, it does it in such an elegant way. So you just have all of your numbers in Twilio, and each of those numbers has like a name, right? So you could call it the rep who's going to use it. You could call it their role, whatever you want to do. And when you sync or when you plug in this integration, the CRM, it creates a custom module called Twilio from numbers. And then each of those numbers, you just assign the record owner as the person who should have access. And then you can also set in there, if everyone should have access, there's just a little checkbox. Nice. So it's just so easy. It's all managed in the CRM. Last little note on this, just because I think this might be new or I didn't notice it before. They're also stamping a bunch of dates into the records. Like last time that a text was sent, last time a text was responded to, all these different things. You could set up workflows. Like if you had sent a text and they didn't respond, you could kick off a task to follow up or kick off an automated text, because they're automatically date stamping everything into fields that you can just hide and use for different workflows. Which like oftentimes those are things that we have to build custom code for, because like it's pretty common to want to say like, hey, if I sent a text and they haven't responded for 3 days, I want a reminder to send another. Right. But that would have to be custom code normally. Right. We're actually tying in with the webhook, or we're writing some type of custom function. But this plugin is just doing that for you. And you just set up a basic little date-based workflow and you're good to go.
Man, I would live in Twilio. The one thing that I've yet to find is a great mobile app and a great desktop app.
Yeah, just like a soft phone.
Nice soft phone for Twilio, nice mobile one for Twilio. They're just so, there's one company that kind of had something we played around with, but man, it was wonky and it wasn't very, it kept breaking. Because it ends up being probably absolutely the most cost-effective telephony you can roll out. It's $1 per number and was it 8
fractional cents for everything
fractional
else.
Cents per minute, fractional cents per text, fractional cents per minute for voice. And it, you just end up spending virtually nothing. You got to build it yourself. You got to go through on the back end, but once you get it set up, it's rock solid. I just need to look back into that. I think we still have got 10 numbers sitting over on Twilio, and now they just forward to whatever we happen to be using. They forward to our cell phones basically at this point in time. Right. But the nifty thing about that was, if that was the primary number, then when someone texted you, it would write to their record because it would have that association. It would all be done. So anyway, good stuff. Congrats to Jeremy Nagel and his partner over there on Deluge on a Luge. And with that, let's get to our tip of the week, which is the very, very last in our beginner's guide on for Zoho campaigns. And this was how to set up sign-up forms. And what this means, Tyler, is that next week we must be recording a whole nother batch of beginner guides.
That we are.
Oh, man. So this is how do you get data into Zoho campaigns. And we go through this several ways. If you want to get it, for those of you who are just using campaigns as a standalone, we kind of cover all those sign-up forms and how you can embed them onto your website and various other things to get those people who are signed up into your very specific campaigns. And I guess it took us 10 minutes to do that. So there must be a whole lot there. And with that, we will call it a day, Tyler. So if you have any questions or comments, please head over to Zenata.com or crmzen.com and drop us a line.
And on the website is where you'll find complete episodes as well as show notes with links to the stories we discussed today. As always, you can follow us on your favorite social media platform and subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app, as well as on YouTube. We'll see you next Monday.